If you thought Nigerian politics had already served all the plot twists it had in stock, think again, because the latest chapter in the Nnamdi Kanu saga just rolled in with the kind of energy that makes even Hollywood say, dang, that's a storyline. Today, we're diving deep, really deep, into the dramatic fallout surrounding IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu's rejection of his life imprisonment sentence and his bold move to appeal the verdict. And trust me, folks, this is not just another routine legal development. This has layers, implications, and seismic shockwaves that are shaking everything from Abuja's political chambers to the grassroots communities of the Southeast. This isn't just about a courtroom showdown. It's about political influence, jurisdiction battles, constitutional debates, public safety concerns, generational tensions, and the ever-growing question, what happens next? Because as it stands, this single decision is already stirring heated debates, energizing supporters, frustrating opponents, and forcing government officials to re-evaluate strategies that seemed locked in stone just a few weeks ago. We're talking high-stakes legal drama, emotional appeals, political maneuvering, intergovernmental tension, and more plot lines than a season finale binge session. And here at Global Pulse News, we're not just reporting the headlines, we're breaking them down, stripping off the noise, decoding the legal jargon, and serving you the facts with a relatable, American-accented, high-energy twist that keeps things sharp, witty, and unmistakably bold. So buckle up, grab your popcorn or your coffee depending on where you're watching from, because what you're about to hear will reshape the conversation around the Kanu case in ways the mainstream probably isn't ready for. You're about to get the real story, the full context, the political undercurrents, and every high-voltage detail unfolding behind the scenes. Let's jump straight into the 10 core developments shaping this entire drama. And trust me, each one hits harder than the last. Kanu rejects his sentence, loud, clear, and without flinching. When the life imprisonment verdict dropped, some expected silence, hesitation, maybe even a moment of shock. But Nnamdi Kanu, not even close. He rejected that verdict with a level of confidence that practically echoed through the courtroom walls. According to the discussions inside the journalist Hangout broadcast, Kanu and his family believed from the start that the judgment was predetermined, a done deal long before the final gavel came down. Documents Nnamdi Kanu rejects life imprisonment and being captured in Kenya is guaranteed evidence. This isn't just a simple, I disagree with the ruling. No, this is a full-blown repudiation, a refusal to accept the legitimacy of the decision. Kanu's rejection signals not just dissatisfaction, but a strategic pivot. He's not backing off, not shrinking back, not accepting defeat. He's doubling down, calling out the system, and channeling his energy into an appeal he believes will expose the flaws of the original ruling. And if that sounds bold, trust me, that's just the opening move. Because if you thought rejecting the sentence was a shocker, wait till you hear what the family is saying behind the scenes. His family says the verdict was predetermined, and they're riding with him. Behind every major political figure stands a support system, and in this case, Kanu's family isn't just standing behind him, they're practically amplifying the megaphone. From what the broadcast revealed, they believe the verdict was wrapped up long before evidence, witnesses, or defense opportunities even mattered. Documents Nnamdi Kanu rejects life imprisonment and being captured in Kenya is guaranteed evidence. According to them, the entire process felt like a formality, like the final chapter was written before the first one even started. And they're not whispering these opinions, they're stating them boldly and publicly, reinforcing Kanu's position and fueling the momentum of his appeal. It's not just emotional loyalty, it's strategic messaging, aimed at shaping public perception, rallying supporters, and sending a warning shot to anyone assuming this story ends here. In Nigeria's political landscape, family influence isn't just symbolic. It's tactical, cultural, and often powerful enough to sway regional sentiment. But if the family stance wasn't loud enough, a top government official decided to jump into the ring, and his take changes everything. Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu says all hope is not lost. Talk about shaking the table. When the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, stepped forward with his now viral "all hope is not lost" remark, social media lit up like Times Square on New Year's Eve. Kalu's comments weren't random, they were deliberate, political, and timed to perfection. He implied that now that the court has spoken, political actors can begin exploring solutions that previously sat locked behind procedural barriers.
In simpler terms, the legal judgment might actually open doors for political negotiation rather than closing them. This is huge because when a senior lawmaker starts hinting at political pathways, people listen. The Southeast listens, the international community listens, and most importantly, the federal government listens. Political solutions have ended major crises before, and Kalu's statement signals that the playbook may be shifting again. But before we get too deep into political chess moves, let's rewind and talk about the legal argument that sparked the entire showdown. Kanu's big argument: you can't try me here, no jurisdiction. From day one, Kanu insisted that the court lacked jurisdiction over his case. His stance was simple, American news blunt. You can't try me for something that didn't even happen within Nigeria's legal borders. This wasn't a one-time objection. He raised it repeatedly to multiple judges across multiple years. Jurisdiction is no small technicality. It's the legal foundation of a trial. If a court doesn't have the authority, the entire process becomes void. Kanu's argument framed his prosecution as fundamentally flawed, built on a foundation he refused to acknowledge. This wasn't just a legal strategy, it was messaging. By contesting jurisdiction, he challenged not only the court, but the legitimacy of the government's approach. And that stance continues to fuel his supporters, who see the judgment as overreach, misapplication, or outright political targeting. But Kanu didn't stop at jurisdiction. He took his challenge even further into the law.
The repealed law controversy. Was he tried under a dead statute? Next came one of the most contentious arguments in the entire case. Kanu claimed he was being tried using a law that had already been repealed. According to the PDF's analysis, he accused the courts of ignoring legal precedents and Supreme Court rulings. In legal circles, that's not a small allegation. That's basically calling the judicial system outdated and inconsistent. If true, it would unravel the entire basis of the prosecution. Supporters argue that his statements exposed contradictions in how laws were applied. Critics claim he was trying to derail the process. But regardless of which side you're on, the claim stuck. It became a talking point in political discussions, legal forums, and even international conversations about human rights and fair trials. But controversy didn't end with legal clauses, because what happened inside the courtroom was a whole drama of its own. Kanu fired his lawyers and refused to enter a defense. Now, here's where things get wild. After the prosecution presented their evidence, Kanu didn't respond in the courtroom the way many expected. Instead, he fired his lawyers, rejected multiple opportunities to defend himself, and challenged the entire process. According to the broadcast, the judge gave him repeated chances, 3 separate windows, to present a defense, but Kanu refused. Strategically, maybe. Symbolically, definitely. Legally, risky as heck. This move allowed the court to treat the prosecution's evidence as uncontested. It also amplified his message that he believed the trial itself was illegitimate. But judges aren't fans of courtroom rebellion, and this decision came with consequences. And those consequences got even more intense when the government moved him far away from his home turf. Kanu sent to Sokoto maximum prison, far from allies and family. After the verdict, a major logistical shift occurred. Kanu was transferred to the Sokoto maximum security prison, a facility hundreds of miles away from his family, supporters, and legal team. This move raised eyebrows across the political spectrum. Critics argued it was strategic isolation. Supporters called it punitive distancing. Officials framed it as standard procedure for high-risk detainees. Either way, the relocation intensified the emotional temperature around the case. For Kanu, it meant restricted access, limited visits, and a significant disruption to communication with his legal advisors. For his supporters, it fueled a new wave of frustration and suspicion. But as intense as the relocation was, the judge's decision on sentencing came with one twist no one saw coming. Judge avoids death penalty, cites scripture instead. Yes, an actual biblical reference in a federal terrorism ruling. This raised a major debate. Some legal analysts called it compassionate. Others argued it was irregular. Some said the appellate courts might overturn the leniency and apply the harsher penalty. This moment added a moral and philosophical dimension to a case already overflowing with political and legal complexity.
But the judge wasn't the only one shifting the narrative. Politicians started stepping up too. Political solution back on the table. High-level voices push for negotiation. Political solutions aren't new in Nigerian conflict resolution, and now prominent leaders, including ministers, regional figures, and lawmakers, believe a negotiated settlement might be the only way to resolve the Southeast tensions tied to Kanu's imprisonment. They argue that releasing Kanu under conditions could call violence, restore order, and rebuild trust. Even Kanu himself told the court that his release would stop unauthorized violence. The message is clear. Prison isn't the only path forward. But before any negotiation can happen, the biggest requirement sits directly on Kanu's shoulders. Conditions for freedom. Renouncing violence may be the deal breaker. Talks of a political solution come with strings attached. Big ones. Government insiders insist that any chance of release requires Kanu to publicly renounce violence, disown armed groups acting in IPOB's name, and commit to nonviolent advocacy. This isn't about surrender, it's about accountability. Officials argue that public safety must come first. Critics counter that the violence is driven by splinter groups, not Kanu himself. Supporters say he's already made gestures towards peace. But the ultimate question remains. Is he willing to meet the conditions? If he is, the path opens. If not, the cycle continues. This story isn't static. It's evolving, unfolding, reshaping itself every day, and the next big development could drop at any moment. And you already know Global Pulse News will be right here breaking it down for you with clarity, wit, and the American accented energy you love. So if you want the real facts, the real context, and the real drama behind Nigeria's biggest political and legal battles, then make sure you're riding with us. Hit that like button like you're stamping approval on the truth. Drop a comment telling us what you think about the case. Should political leaders step in? Should the courts run their course? Does the Southeast need Kanu released to restore peace? We want to hear from you. And of course, subscribe, because the next chapter in this story is coming, and trust me, you don't want to hear it secondhand. Stay plugged in, stay informed, and stay part of the conversation. This is Global Pulse News, where facts hit harder, stories run deeper, and we never let the noise drown out the truth.